Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Everbridge Live APAC webinar. I'm just going to give it another couple of minutes to allow more people to join, so we'll just get started in a minute or so. Thanks for your patience. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for your patience while we start. So good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to our latest Everbridge Live APAC webinar. And once again, thank you all very much for joining. My name's Philip Nunn, and I'm joined today by Wayne Forgerson, who's from our Everbridge Signal product function. And today we're going to be talking a really excellent session, which we've got lined up, in which Wayne is going to take us through how you can use open source intelligence data from a whole variety of different sources, including the dark web, as the title kind of implies, to help identify potential risks to, I guess, employees or organizations. And just some housekeeping, we're going to have some time after the call to take questions, but do feel free to ask questions as we go. You can put those in the question and answer section or the chat function in the GoToWebinar platform, and we'll try and answer these as we go. If not, we'll try and pick them up at the end. I would also like to extend the offer to all of our attendees to get essentially a free report from the Everbridge Signal platform. And so we're going to ask you if you'd like to take advantage of that, to give us some search terms that you'd like to see Signal monitor for a period of time. And then we're going to send through to you a report that shows what the platform picked up in that time frame. I should say it's free. There's no obligation on your part. And at the end of this webinar, we'll let you know exactly how you can do this. So I'd ask you all to please stay through to the end of the presentation. But without further ado, I will hand across to Wayne. Over to you, Wayne.
Thanks, Philip, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about Everbridge Signal, open source intelligence, and obviously the dark web as well. So just to start by way of introduction, Everbridge Signal is an open source intelligence gathering tool. What does that mean? It means some of the conversations that are happening by, as we say, there are 4 billion people in any point in time during the day. Everbridge Signal lets you look for intelligence from a variety of sources. That may be social media, maybe blogs, forums, websites, but it is also the dark and deep web. So we're able to provide you with dark web content relevant to the criteria that you may have set in your search terms, and from sources like the dark web. And we'll show you some examples of that shortly. It's one thing to gather that information, but another thing to actually have the information and then apply some machine learning, apply some artificial intelligence and natural language processing to that data, and then have that provide additional intelligence and additional guidance as to the type of data it may be, the relevancy to certain categories, or to see what the emotion or sentiment of the people that are posting information may be, to get a greater insight into the situation or the incident or the event. So another key aspect about Everbridge Signal, it is really an operational tool, not a marketing toy. What do we mean by that? We mean it is designed to fit within your operational requirements. So it's not just a tool to gather information. As I said before, we have machine learning based relevancy filters. So we're able to categorize and assign relevancy to certain categories or classifications of the content that we find. We leverage natural language processing to look at emotional analysis. So what are the emotions being expressed as data, as part of the content that we're finding? You have a proactive and customizable alerts, so you can be notified when there is something that has come in that you should be aware of, or something that may be relevant to a situation or an event, and so on. Also, powerful visualization tools. What does that mean? That means you can look at visualizations. You can do analytics on the information that has come into the system. You can provide and you can create reports that you may then want to submit to management, and so on. And then obviously dark and deep web content. This is not just social media content. It's not just the open web. It is absolutely information that's coming from the deep and dark recesses of the internet. So that's going to be the dark web, it's going to be the deep web, so that's going to include the likes of Telegram, Discord, and so on, and a number of those platforms. So today's not about a whole lot of slides. Today's about showing you Everbridge Signal and showing you how it can help. So I'm just going to jump across into the demo site, and what you are now seeing is Everbridge Signal, the demo account we've got set up for the purposes of today's webinar. And the key thing here is each of these green squares that you see in front of you are searches that are running looking for various information based on some criteria that we've got set up. So very simple level, and you can see from the titles we've got a search over here that's looking for anything that's related to a mall shooting, so something happening in the US around a shooting at a shopping center or a mall or so on. In the middle, we've got searches set up, and we're looking for potential threats to the Australian PM. So the Australia's got a new PM, and what we're seeing here is some comments. In this case, these comments are coming from 4chan that could be potentially threatening to the Australian PM. So we're looking, and we're not just looking for any mentions, we're actually now drilling down to start to look for, using keywords, we're starting to look for things that are potential indicators of issues or higher risk related, in that case, to the Australian PM. Over on the right-hand side, what you're going to see down here, or what you're seeing here, is dark web content. In this particular case, it's information from various ransomware feeds. So ransomware sites where these ransomware gangs talk about, and they advertise, if you like, the organizations they have attacked, the type of data they have available, the current situation, like is negotiation in play? If it's not in play, has it been published? They make threats on those platforms, and so on. So you can see here, there's literally some dark web content. In this case, it's the Onion Tor network, and we can, if I scroll down, we can see what that content is. So with each piece of information, you can see we've highlighted the relevant words. These are the words we're looking for. And if I just look at this one as a very simple example, open edit the search, you're going to see, looking on the 4chan network, we're looking for any mentions of the Australian Prime Minister and then a series of threatening terms, and we're applying some Boolean logic to that. So that's about making sure we are reducing as much noise as possible, and we're putting in parameters that are going to ensure the results we get are relevant to the situation we're facing. And in this case, over here on the left-hand side, just a similar sort of scenario. In this case, we're looking at social media, so it's Twitter, and it's looking for information relevant to those mall shootings. And then last but certainly not least, over on the right-hand side, we are looking at a number of sites on the dark web. So these are ransomware sites. These are sites where the ransomware gangs publish their content, publish their information. So from a use case perspective, you're looking at things like employee and executive protection. If you're a retailer, has there been something that's happened at one of the locations where you have your stores, or does a mall happen to be, for example, across the road from your office or so on? This scenario here, executive or VIP protection, looking specifically for mentions of someone's name or maybe their role, their title, and threatening terms, and looking for potential threats around that. Then over here, is your organization, or is one of your key suppliers, or are one of your key suppliers been mentioned? Have they been attacked via a ransomware gang? Are they, does that then mean that there's going to be potential issues with your relationship with them, or the supply chain, and so on? Down the bottom, there was a tornado in New Zealand just the other day in a place called Levin, and what we're seeing here is just some posts that talk about. So that's situational awareness. That's kind of real time. There was a tornado, people start posting about it, and so on. This one here, we see just some other channels. We're seeing information coming from the likes of 8kun, and in this case, IQC. So we're able to look at a variety of sources. And if I just quickly jump into here, you'll see that the number of sources that we have access to is quite varied. So it's things like obviously social, open web, so blogs, forums, Twitter, YouTube, and so on. But we're talking about, I mentioned it before, the cyber. So this is the dark web, the deep web, those sort of platforms like Telegram, like Discord, and so on. Not only are we looking across those platforms, but we can be looking for information relevant to certain entities in those environments. Obviously, content would be one, but we can be looking for things like domain names, IP addresses, and so on. So we can look across a broad number of data sources, and we can look across a number of entities within those data sources, including categories and so on, really to make sure that we're looking for the information that's relevant to the use case you may have, or the scenarios that you want to increase the either coverage and protection of. As I said before, it's one thing to be able to gather the information, which Signal certainly can do, and can gather information from a wide variety of sources, including some of these alt tech platforms, some of the areas where people are trying to hide conversations. We can certainly find that information, but you also want to do something with that information. You want to analyze it, and there's a couple of things that Signal does, one of which is a relevancy engine. And you'll see in this particular case, under each of these posts, if I scroll down, you see a little ray gun. What that is, that's an indicator to say that that particular post is relevant to a shooting classification, a shooting category. So in this case, I can quickly see which of the pieces of information here are most relevant to a shooting and those that are not. And in this case, I've got a post that's relevant to two categories, so it's multiple categories. So we have some artificial intelligence that's reviewing the text, it's analyzing the conversation, and it's going to put an indicator as to whether that is relevant to a certain category or classification. That also means that when I set up my alerting, I can tell the system that I want to be alerted, and I want to be alerted based on relevancy to that category or classification. So only alert me if the machine learning algorithms have indicated that is relevant to a shooting event. At the moment, the classifications we have: shooting, death threats, hate speech, natural disasters, reputation risk, earthquake, and terrorism. So there's currently 7 categories, and we're looking to build out more over time. Another thing we can do, and you'll see this little icon up here, is we can jump into what we call Spotlight. So Spotlight is our natural language processing engine. This is where we're going to look at the information that we've been gathering from the various searches we've got running in this account. And we're doing emotional analysis. So we're looking to see, okay, the information we're getting coming in, what is the emotion that information is expressing? If this is someone, for example, mentioning or talking about my chief executive, are they doing that in a way that they're expressing an angry emotion? So I can look at it, I can click on that, and I can drill down, and I can start to look at the information relevant to the post that the emotion relevant to the post that I've gathered. So it could be something like executive mentions expressing anger. And once again, that can be a trigger for my alerting. If someone is talking about my chief executive and they're expressing anger, then let me know, then send me an alert or notify me or something similar. Or for that matter, publish that piece of content, create a notification in a system that I might interface with, such as the Everbridge CM platform, where it would automatically create a risk event in that case. So I'm looking for emotional analysis. I'm looking at analyzing as I say, the text that's coming in and assigning emotions to that. Also sentiment. So it's not just emotions. The other side to that is sentiment. This is more your happy, sad, neutral. So at the same time, we're analyzing the information that's coming in, and we're looking to see what the sentiment may be associated to that particular post and so on. And then we can combine that into an overall dashboard, and that dashboard would give us a view, and this is going to show us an emotional dashboard or location analysis dashboard. So we're going to see the information, whereabouts that information has come from, what's the emotion being expressed in the various areas, I can apply different filters, like I can narrow this down to particular searches and date ranges and bits and pieces, but for the purposes of today, I've leave it broad. And then I'm seeing the center analysis as well. So I'm getting a feel for conversations that may be happening, and remembering if this is conversations about my organization or my senior members of the team, VIPs, executives, and so on. And there are people that are expressing negative emotions or angry emotions, then I can see that on a broad view such as this. So that's the Spotlight. That's the natural language processing engine that we provide, and that's doing the analytics of the content that we're gathering based on the searches that we've got set up. Just jumping down here, we also have, from a visualization perspective, we have the Power BI. So we leverage the Microsoft Power BI tool within Everbridge Signal. And what that enables us to do is really to extract that information, create those visualizations that we may want to have from the purposes of reporting to management, or maybe just for interest sake. Maybe we just want to keep an eye on what may be happening, and we can look at things like standard reports. Maybe there's some advanced reporting where I can drill down and start looking for particular elements of interest. Maybe I want to search the archive. Maybe I want to come in and look at the information that we've already gathered over the last period of time, and in this case it's defaulting to the last week. So I can come in now and I can start to analyze that information. I can start to drill down and say, okay, we've got a bunch of information, and I can maybe want to go through a process of decomposing or decomposition of that information. Where has that come from? What can I see where the results have come from? Maybe I want to see the domains that information has come from, so I can see where the information is coming from. So the specific domains, and this is all information that you as an Everbridge Signal user can access and run the various reports or run those visualizations. And we have the ability for you to run an overview report. So that report is going to give you the situation from a perspective of how's the system gone over the last week, what's the information that's been gathered, what are the flagging. We have the ability within Everbridge to flag items of interest for yourself, for your colleagues, identify where things may need further attention, may need some tracking within your organization, or maybe need to be managed through your operating procedures and so on. So you can create and you can run this report, which will enable you to add your own commentary to that report, and then you can save that and circulate that for example, as a management report. So at a very high and quick overview, the key thing about Signal is it gives you the ability to look for that intelligence across a very broad variety of data sources, including the dark web. From a dark web perspective, we can search under many rocks that you typically don't want to be looking, and you don't want to be playing on the dark web yourself. There's no need to be afraid. Hence the tagline of the webinar. We can manage the extraction of the data from the dark web. We can help you find information on that platform. You don't need to be playing in that environment yourself. So Signal enables you to set that information up, create those searches, or we will help create those searches with you. So we have intelligence analyst capability to assist and onboarding and ongoing support. That also includes looking for information that is relevant to what you're looking for. So applying that Boolean logic, looking for the situations where, if I just show the search again, where you're looking for different content across different layers. But you can also do things like not parameters. So it's about saying, it's not just about gathering the information that's relevant, it's about excluding information that may be irrelevant. So you can reduce excessive noise by putting some not parameters in and having more control over the information that you are seeing. So as I say, that's Everbridge Signal. These streams are running and they're gathering information based on that criteria. You can see some stuff's coming relatively recently, other stuff has come in over a period of time and from a variety of data sources, including the dark web and the deep web and so on. So that's the demonstration. I'm now going to hand back to Philip from a perspective of actually, sorry, one more slide I forgot about. Just to close, sorry. Signal is about helping you protect what matters most. What I mean by that is it's the background to Signal is it was developed by a team with a history of safety and security solutions. We have open source intelligence experts as part of the team guiding the ongoing development. Signal is really about providing you with intelligence that you probably wouldn't otherwise find in the case of dark and deep web. It gives you the access to that information without you then having to play in those environments yourselves. As Philip said, we're happy to do a free investigative report. If you can send us some key information like organisation name, domain name, key executives, or any scenarios you may be interested in, you email that through to info@everbridgesignal.com. We're happy to set up some searches in Signal. We'll provide you a free investigative report. Typically that could take up to a week. And it'll give you an idea, it'll show you the sort of information that we can uncover with Signal, some of the things that you may not even be aware of, some of the conversations, some of the information around data breach, information, cyber threats, and so on. And we'll return that with no obligation and at no cost. So this time I'll hand over to you, Philip, and let you run through Q&A.
No problem, and thank you very much, Wayne. It's a really great demonstration. It's amazing, really, I guess, what's out there. It's obviously a pretty powerful platform, but the thing that strikes me is it's pretty easy to use, and of course it also provides that visualization and reporting as well. So I should say as well that, you know, obviously we keep these webinars down to a certain amount of time, so if anybody would like more specific details or would like to reach out to us to talk more about this in particular, then please feel free to reach out to us. But hopefully we've made kind of accessing and including, you know, the dark web and open source threats just that little bit more accessible. Now, there were a couple of questions that came through on the chat, Wayne, so I'm just going to read these through, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
First one was, if WhatsApp and Telegram are end-to-end encrypted, how do you search for keywords?
Yeah, great question. The key there is in the description, open source intelligence. We are looking for information that isn't in the private groups or private channels. We're looking for information that's in the public groups and public channels. That doesn't mean that we aren't able to find conversations of interest. We do find a lot of information. We might find references to private channels, but we're only looking specifically at information that's in the public forums, the public chat rooms, the public channels.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, how do you deal with different languages?
Another great question. Basically, Signal will enable you to search for information in whatever language you require. We can deal with, I think from memory, it's about 78 different languages. It changes really reasonably frequently, but you can basically set up a query looking for information based in a language of your choice. The other thing is you can also set up queries for things like emojis. So you can have emojis as a criteria within the content. So for example, someone's name with an angry emoji at the end of it, we can be looking for that sort of information as well.
All right, I've got well, actually three more here, Wayne. So next one is, how dependable is the location analysis given the masking provided by the use of the dark web?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I mean, they're all good questions. The reality is what we're doing is we're doing a number of assumptions. So those assumptions, when it comes to the open web, they're going to be based around things like IP addresses and domain names of sites and bits and pieces. On the dark web, it gets a lot harder. That really comes down to talking about looking for indicators, and it may be in the content itself. So if someone is talking about the content, and in that content conversation or that discussion, they're talking about Australia or a location in Australia, then that helps us determine that might be the location. We certainly don't guarantee it, because the dark web, as the question asker will well know, is designed to provide an anonymous platform. So we look for those sort of indicators.
Right. Perhaps a more general question here, Wayne, which is somebody's asked is, how do you access the dark web?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're working with a combination of direct access and data aggregators. So in some cases, we're bringing information directly from a source. In other cases, we're working with a data aggregator who have analysts and processes and routines that are uncovering information across the dark and deep web all the time. And it's a good question from the point of view. Another question that often comes up is, are we exposing, or would we expose yourselves to the dark web? And the answer is no. You're at least 2 steps removed from any information on the dark web, so it wouldn't be possible for anyone on the dark web to trace back the organisation that was looking for the information. And the same token, when we bring information in from the dark web, we're only bringing textual information, because a lot of the visual information on that platform is objectionable. So we're bringing you the textual information. We do include the link to that original post. So if you wanted to go there, you can, and you had access via a Tor browser and so on. So we do protect organisations from accessing the dark web in their own right, and there's no way, as I say, to trace back where that may be coming from.
All right, there's one more question, Wayne, which actually is probably linked to the question you've just answered, but I think it was asked in, if we're giving details for you to provide a report to us, will my information be put on the dark web? So I think it was asked in relation to the offer that we have for the report, which is probably the same answer if I'm reading you correctly, Wayne.
Yeah, very much the same answer. The details of your organisation won't be specifically put onto the dark web. And just also on that note, an important note to know, anyone who does send us information for the purposes of the report, we will delete that information as soon as we've completed the report and sent it through. So we're not going to retain any of that. You're not going to go on any marketing lists or anything like that. It's simply a case of give us the information, we'll prepare a report. Someone will be in touch with you about that report, but you won't be automatically put onto any spam list or anything like that.
Perfect. All right, I don't see any more questions. So kind of going once, going twice. Anybody got any more questions? Please put them into the question section, and if not, then we'll wrap it up there. Don't see any more come through, but probably that's a little fast for people to type. But if there is anything that anybody would like, as I say, please reach out to us. Use the email address that's on screen here as well. And if you've got any feedback, or if you'd like to take anything further, then again, use that email address. But yeah, love to receive your search terms and so on, and you'll get that free report back from us. And with that, thank you all for attending. Thank you, Wayne, and we'll close the webinar there. Thank you all.